Now on Denver 7 News at 4. A search for a suspect after 3 people are found dead in a Denver apartment. We hear from neighbors. Plus, in Castle Rock, a person of interest after a woman is found dead in a suspicious house fire.
With a record number of overdose deaths, the program's expanding to get naloxone to more people. The focus on hospitals to increase access to this life-saving drug. And as cities look for solutions to the lack of affordable housing, we're taking a look at the incentives that are working.
And you just never know what you'll find at a thrift store.
She was starting to make a nest in the potter, and then it was a couple days later that she laid her egg.
A goose choosing an interesting spot to welcome her goslings into the world. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for Denver 7 News at 4. I'm Jacqueline Allen. Right now, the search continues for a suspect after 3 people, including a young boy, were found shot dead inside a Denver apartment last night. This was at the East Range Crossing apartment complex in Green Valley Ranch. A man and a woman were also among the victims found. At 6 o'clock Tuesday night, officers responded to shots fired at the East Range Crossings apartments. When officers went inside a unit on the 2nd floor, they found a man, a woman, and young child who had all been shot to death. Now, today we went back to that complex to find out more details from neighbors, and many told us with the suspects still at large, they're afraid to leave their homes.
Yeah, nowadays you gotta sleep with one eye open, make sure your car is not getting broken into, or, gotta be worried about the kids coming outside playing.
We reached out to the apartment complex to find out if there are any plans to beef up security. We will have more on that tonight on Denver 7 News at 5. Just a few miles away, Denver police are also investigating what they're calling an outdoor death. This call came in around 9:45 this morning near East Mitchell Circle. An ID or cause of death have not been given to us yet, but police do not suspect foul play. Castle Rock police have identified this man as a person of interest in a fire and subsequent death inside a home yesterday afternoon. 32-year-old Matthew Buchanan was last seen driving a white Dodge minivan with temporary Colorado plates 3964372. Castle Rock Fire were responding to a fire here on Dove Valley Place when they found a woman dead inside the home. That woman has since been identified as 59-year-old Elizabeth Buerlow of Castle Rock. Police have not yet said how she died. And police have also not released the identity of the person who was shot and killed by Evans police yesterday afternoon. The city of Greeley says officers were called to a home near 37th and Palermo on a suspicious person. They say that person was armed and refused to follow police commands. Now, initially, police used less than lethal methods, but then an officer shot the person, who later died at the hospital. It's not clear yet what led to the escalated use of force. Colorado lawmakers want better protections for those under a court-appointed guardianship. This comes after a more than year-long Denver 7 investigation. Our reporting exposed how guardians and conservators were bleeding estates with little oversight. A court can place someone under guardianship if they are deemed mentally unfit to handle their own affairs. This bill was supposed to provide basic protections, including notifying family members if a loved one dies. But after some negotiating between lawmakers, it went from creating law to creating a task force. That working group will bring all of the voices to the table.
All the players are sitting around the table expressing what they need, what works for them or what doesn't. I think at that point, there is going to be legislation that will work. I think this is
State Representative Kim Ramson called the change a big win. The bill passed a committee hearing unanimously. It still needs a vote, though, for the full House before moving on to the Senate. A bill overhauling Colorado's unemployment system was unveiled today. This bill would send roughly $600 million to the state's depleted unemployment insurance trust fund to lower a $1 billion federal debt hanging over employers. We have a full write-up going in depth on this unemployment bill, and you can read it right now over on thedenverchannel.com.
A prisoner swap with Russia is bringing a former Marine home. American Trevor Reed has been in jail in Moscow since 2019. He was convicted of allegedly assaulting Russian police. The U.S. handed over a convicted Russian drug trafficker in exchange. This took place in Turkey. Reed's parents have spoken with him since his release.
Trevor quickly told us that they The American plane pulled up next to the Russian plane, and they walked both prisoners across at the same time like you see in the movies.
Trevor always underplays how he's feeling, but he just said, I'm fine. But, we'll see. At least he's getting checked out.
President Biden met with Reed's parents last month and spoke with them again today after the swap. His parents think that was a tipping point for negotiations. Meanwhile, former Marine Paul Whelan, who was arrested in 2018 on espionage charges in Russia, remains in custody there. Then, basketball star Brittany Griner, also detained in Russia. She was arrested and accused of drug smuggling in February. The White House says it is continuing to work for both of their releases.
Today, we honor a truly proud American who made all of us prouder to be Americans.
President Joe Biden delivered the eulogy at former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright's funeral this morning. He's joined by other former presidents and other dignitaries. Albright was the first female Secretary of State and was appointed by former President Bill Clinton. She grew up right here in Denver, died last month from cancer at age 84.
A clinical trial in the UK is showing signs of a breakthrough in treating Parkinson's disease. Take a look at this video provided by North Bristol Hospital, and you can see how this patient's symptoms improved. Doctors implanted the world's smallest brain stimulation device to override the abnormal brain cell patterns that are caused by Parkinson's. Now, other existing devices used for Parkinson's are typically large and they go in the chest. The treatment's awaiting approval from England's medical regulator before other countries can test it out as well. Now, if you are an older American taking aspirin daily, or you know someone who is, the U.S. Preventative Services Task Force says you should no longer do this if you're over the age of 60. For years, it has been thought that a daily low dose of aspirin could prevent heart attacks and stroke. The task force says more evidence is showing there's no net benefit. It increases the risk of internal bleeding. Now, research did find that adults ages 40 to 59 did see a small net benefit. If you take aspirin every day, the task force encourages you to talk with your doctor about this update. Now, if your car gets towed, it's really frustrating, and what might be even more frustrating, the people behind it could get a kickback. That is legal in more than half the country. The actions being taken about it and what you can do for help.
And a slew of wild horses die after a disease quickly spread among a rounded up group. Why one group says these federally approved roundups are putting these horses in unnecessary risk.